Welcome. The learning outcomes for today's lesson are to identify the responses of the CV system, apply the calculations and try to apply them to some sporting examples, and to analyse the CV system responses in regards to a particular exam question. And this links to your anatomy and your biomechanics modules. So just as a little bit of a recap then, can you identify the four components of the electrical system then? So you may know this as the cardiac cycle. Pause the video, have a go. Okay, so hopefully you pause the video. So we should have, in order then, the sinoatrial node, that first circular node at the very top, the atrioventricular node, the AV node second, underneath that, the bundle of His, the two runners running off that second node, and the Purkinje fibres at the very base of the heart. The cardiac cycle then, this involves the contraction and relaxation of the heart. So the frequency of the cardiac cycle is your heart's rate, okay? So the combination of a ventricular systole, which lasts 0.3 seconds, and ventricular diastole, which lasts 0.5 seconds. So in total, the cycle lasts 0.8 seconds. So if we look here towards the mark scheme, if we were to define what systole and diastole was, systole is that contraction of the ventricles forcing blood out of the heart and pumping blood into the aorta or arteries, and the diastole is the ventricles relaxing and filling with blood. So top tip then, don't get confused between these key terms. So the phases of the cardiac cycle are known as systole and diastole, and blood pressure is known as systolic and diastolic. Okay, so we have the autonomic nervous system, which determines the rate at which the SA node sends out impulses, and the sympathetic nervous system will speed impulses up. So increases in heart rate by releasing adrenaline, and that adrenaline increases the strength of that contraction, which then in turn increases stroke volume. So the parasympathetic nervous system then, that slows down the speed of the heart's impulse, which decreases heart rate. So that is done through releasing acetylcholine, which slows the spread of impulses throughout the heart. So that results in that lower heart rate. So the sympathetic system, S for speeding things up, increasing heart rate, and the parasympathetic system slows heart rate down. So a way to remember that is, think of a parachute coming down. Okay, that is nice and slow. Okay, parachute, parasympathetic, slowing responses down. The cardiac cycle then. So we've got the electrical signal is sent from the brain. Okay, that signals to hit the SA node, which generates a wave of impulse over the atria. This wave of contraction spreads over the atria, okay, and then it moves through each of those components. So have a read of the process, okay. We've got 1, 2, 3, and 4, and those are exactly what happens in terms of the responses. So we've got triggering atrial systole, then the conduction delays the conduction through the ventricles at the AV node. It holds onto it. Okay, so it ensures that both atria or the atria contract, okay, fully before the signal or impulse moves on through the bundle of His. Okay, it conducts the base of the ventricles when it moves into the bundle of the His. Okay, and that means then that the ventricles can start to contract. Okay, eventually moving into the Purkinje fibres, conducting up the ventricle walls to finish contraction. Okay, so it's like a wave of contraction. We've got SA nodes, okay, the impulse travels to the AV node, it's delayed, and then once it's ready, it will move into the bundle of His and then the Purkinje fibres. So the CV system then, the main reason it does increase or decrease heart rate. Okay, it's to pump and direct blood around the body, to transport O2 and nutrients, and to remove waste products. Okay, so what necessary adjustments do you think the heart has to make in order to respond to exercise? Have a think. Okay, so the responses of the cardiovascular system then, they are anticipatory rise, increased cardiac output, increased stroke volume, increased heart rate, and increased blood pressure. Finally, finishing with redistribution of blood flow, so otherwise known as vascular shunt. And we'll cover these in detail in the next lesson.